Got it. Okay. Just to inform anybody who's watching on the YouTube live stream of the results committee meeting, we are going to wait just a minute to hear from our third committee member who said she was going to be in person. Okay. Well, will you let us know, Robin, when you hear from Ms. Gordon? Robin, you're muted. Oh, I guess she's muted on purpose.
She's driving. She is on her way here, but we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the ad hoc results committee meeting for October 6th at 11 a.m. I am joined by fellow committee member Elizabeth Hay, and it looks like I see Chloe. Oh yeah, there's Chloe.
Chloe is on,
and
yeah.
Drive carefully, Ms. Gordon. And also board member Earl Campbell. So if I could get you guys to help me with the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll do that now.
Absolutely.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And ladies, I need an approval of the agenda, if that's how you feel.
Yes, I approve, or excuse me, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I motion to approve the ad hoc results committee meeting agenda for October 6th, 2023.
Okay. Ms. Gordon, are you willing to second that? Or why don't we just wait till Ms. Gordon gets here? I'll go ahead and second that. And we will, do you have any opposition, Ms. Gordon? Shake your head. She's muted. Well, we're just gonna go. I'm gonna second that. Ms. Hay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we will put down Ms. Gordon is absent for the moment until she gets there, because I don't want her to try to do anything while she's driving.
Not while she's driving.
Okay, Ms. Christianberry, do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So we are here once again to discuss the superintendent evaluation. We have put to bed the 2022-2023 evaluation. That process will be getting underway here in just a couple of weeks. We are, I think, 6 weeks into the school year so far. And we really need to because as we became aware, it's not reasonable for the January results committee to try and tweak the evaluation sort of retrospectively, which I think is a reasonable position to have. So what I'm hoping is that in the next quick period of time, we can make some decisions if what we're going to do to evaluate our superintendent in the 2023 to 2024 school year. So and thinking about this, the two documents you have are what we're currently using just as a point of reference, and what we had kind of talked about back in the spring in terms of my research that had to how coherent governance is supposed to actually evaluate the superintendent. And just as a refresher, the coherent governance model is a 50-50 split between operational expectations monitoring and results policy monitoring. We don't really have official results policies. What we do have is sort of a reference to academic achievement, teacher recruitment and retention, and financial stewardship. But we have not been monitoring results policies. So that's kind of where we're at with these two disparate concepts. And I think in thinking about this, what I kind of wanted to throw out just to get the conversation started is I kind of feel like we can start off on three paths. We can say we're going to keep going with the current evaluation tool and just make tweaks to it for the 2022-2023 school year. Or, I mean, sorry, 2023-2024. We can push into the coherent governance and try to figure out how we could do the results policy, either keeping the results that we currently kind of sort of have and start actually monitoring those on like coherent governance suggests, or talking to the board about revising results. I don't know how fast we could get that up and going. We could just do operational expectations, because I do think some of our results expectations are contained within the operational expectations. Or we could do some sort of hybrid. I know that was mentioned at a previous meeting that the tool, which I'm going to refer to as the Michigan evaluation, just for clarity, Michigan evaluation and coherent governance evaluation process, is similar. They felt there was a lot of similarity and overmatch between what we currently are using and what coherent governance and our operational expectations are. We could tighten up that crosswalk, and that could be a way to go. So really there's 4 kind of paths we could take. Stick with what we've got and tweak it. Go full into coherence governance, which would be a lot of work to get together in a short period of time. Go to just using the OEs and assume that the results policies will kind of fill into there, or sort of tightening up the relationship between what we currently have and coherent governance. So with that, I would like to hear from other members of the committee and the board. Nobody jump in at once.
Well, I was going to give Earl or someone in academics a chance to
That's a
go
good
ahead,
idea.
since this is my first rodeo, because I have thoughts obviously around this, but having this be my first evaluation cycle, I don't want to, like I said, I have my own thought on moving forward, but I don't want to overstep.
Well, let's start with Mr. Campbell, if you don't mind, Mr. Campbell. I'd like to hear kind of what you're thinking about what we need to do for his future evaluation.
Future evaluation, I think, well, I don't know how this is going to work, because it's we don't include teachers as far as in the state of South Carolina, and I'm concerned about that. I think that's something that needs to be changed, and I think what we need to do is talk to legislators and see if we can do that. Other than that, what the things that you were talking about, I agree with those, so I don't have a problem.
Yeah, and actually I'll share with you guys that I was speaking to somebody at a pretty high level at the state about the EOCs and the report card, and they recently, and I will get this out to the committee and the board as a whole. They gave me a copy of the Teacher Recruitment and Retention Task Force, which was chaired by Barbara Nielsen, who's actually lives here locally.
Right.
And one of the 3 main takeaways from that is that our current assessment system doesn't really, with the way we handle the data, how we collect it, the fact that it's released after that class has moved on, so it doesn't provide, feedback, that was a real barrier to recruiting teachers. And that was something that they were going to be pushing at a very high level to fix. They don't think the current EOC and, state assessment is very effective. So I think that is, that definitely goes to your point, that do we really want to piggyback on that system for our superintendent? Ms. Hay, you have your hand up?
Yes, the phone, I'm not sure whose line, but it was a little garbled when Mr. Campbell first started speaking. Were you saying, Mr. Campbell, that it doesn't include teachers? Is that what I heard?
As far as his evaluation, we evaluate him, but there's no, in the state of South Carolina, there's no policy or procedures to include teachers in a superintendent evaluation at all.
Meaning that they would give their feedback.
Right.
Well, and what he's also saying is what has been raised on numerous occasions within the board is that we're holding our superintendent accountable, if we were to hold our superintendent accountable for, say, the progress on reading EOCs, which we have done in the past, is problematic because we're not holding teachers and school level administrators accountable. So in Michigan, teachers are they have a better assessment, I think, process. They use some of these numbers a little bit differently, but teachers get evaluated based on their classroom numbers. Principals get evaluated based on their school numbers, and then the superintendent gets evaluated on the district numbers. What we're doing, because we use Michigan, is we're evaluating the superintendent on the district, but the classroom level and school level aren't receiving that same assessment. So it makes one person accountable for what's happening with 3,000 teachers when they're not accountable to that same data. that seems to be a problem.
I would say so.
So that's been the complaint from a lot of people looking at these assessments. But like I said, I think they are working on it at a very high level at the state. They recognize that the way these numbers are presented, the way the numbers are gathered is not helpful, and that it is an issue with teacher recruiting. I can imagine it'd be an issue with superintendent recruiting as well. So. But yeah, so I think we're all sort of in the page that these numbers still have they are a point in time read on the school district, and we should not discard them or ignore them or otherwise, set them aside. We just need to put them in context with a lot of other data points that can be gathered, like, graduation rates, attendance, school attendance. There's all sorts of different surveys, we do extensive surveys. And I don't think you've had a chance to see this, Miss, yet. Hey, but we do a school culture survey where a lot of different, less numeric, more sort of, interpretive evaluations and assessments are given. So there's a lot of other data points we can look at. We can look at the number of kids being identified to gifted and talented. We can look at teacher recruitment. And so all that data gives context to these numbers. Taking those numbers by themselves without other data points and more context creates, some problems, is sort of the conclusion I've come to. So going forward, what do we want to do, folks? Because we're going to hopefully get on the agenda for the October work session. I still am on my soapbox about wanting to put results policies into our policy manual, so that, and that goes to what I brought up at the last board meeting about budget priorities. If we have result policies, and for example, one of the results policies is we want more fine arts in the schools. We've talked about this numerous times, or we want more project-based learning. That informs district leadership when they start looking at budget priorities. Right now, I think we have pretty flimsy is not the word, pretty not very well fleshed out results policies. And so I'm hoping that we'll get to that, but that's going to take a little bit of time. That's a big conversation. So in the interim, since we're already in October, what do we want to be telling the superintendent that he's going to be held accountable for this time next year? And Ms. Hay, jump in, because I think your business experience and your parent, being a parent, you have a lot to offer. I don't think it necessarily needs to be someone that has experience with this.
No, and I just was thinking through processes because I remember we had discussed, and I'm in agreement with most of what you just said about policy and so on. What I was thinking is, I'm obviously not an advocate for example, throwing out this tool and coming up with a brand new one, seeing as the school year has already started. I would be interested in seeing, and I have been doing some digging to find evaluation tools from other districts in the state, because I think comparing apples to apples can be more beneficial in this realm than comparing apples to oranges. However, this is the tool we have. So I think you and I were in agreement about 3 or 4 meetings ago that this one needed to be tweaked for this school year, but that we were not going to go all in and, let's just say, recreate a whole new tool. That's insane, especially when we're already in the school year. However, if other board members, once we, discuss this during a work session, and so on, wanted a different tool, that would be something the results committee would obviously then start working on for the next school years, but not this one. So with that being said,
it bothers me a fair amount that we don't have strategic goals that were evaluated or superintendent. And that's why, I don't know how fast we could get results, but to me, it's just a rather gaping hole in our evaluation process that we're not saying, here's where we wanted the district to go. And academic achievement is always going to be a big part of that. Or if, but, we've talked about at various meetings, if we want to this year, we really want you to work on discipline, you know.
Mhm.
Mr. Campbell has mentioned that at multiple meetings, and I think it is clearly becoming an issue. So, but we don't have a results policy for that. So how do we hold them accountable for discipline strategically? We can hold them accountable for, we had X number of fights this year compared to X number of fights last year. But if we aren't saying that strategically, that's where we want you to focus your energy. I think it's, you know, because what I want, what coherent governance does, and what I think makes sense for a high level evaluation is you say, here are our strategic priorities. What progress did you make towards them? What, you know, so if we say discipline,
Right.
what
Yes.
programs, tools, conversations did you put in place? If we're just going to say, here's some numbers over the last years, especially since COVID is such a big, you know, affecting process. It's just distorted so many of our numbers. So I do think, you know, I don't know, we can stick with the Michigan evaluation and maybe try to walk it more clearly over to our OEs, because those are already on the books. We should
Yes.
already be monitoring those. I think that is probably the most expedient, but I do hate that we're going to look at yet another year evaluation without strategic goals.
Do you want, because we have a strategic plan, so do you want to get the strategic plan in place? And you all
We
would
can-
look at that?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, but that's the district doing their strategic plan, right?
That is correct. And what is on the other thing, the board has not set, and it's your agenda, but the board has not set its goals. And
Right.
each on the agenda, that's what is presented. The superintendent, not the evaluation, but when we look at our regular board agenda, that comes from the board's goals that they put in place back in 2019, 2018. I can't remember the last time, but the board yourself have not established your goals. And
Right.
then that's, to me, what you would be also, what your goals would be is then what you would tell the superintendent and what you evaluate, because he brings to you the board's goals for each meeting, and OEs comes out of that. Does that make
Are you
sense?
talking about the 5 goals on the agenda, the superintendent evaluation?
Yes.
Okay.
So are the goals, when you're saying the strategic plan, are you talking about the district strategic plan or the board putting a strategic plan in place?
Yeah, the
Or is the
results.
board adopting the board's strategic plan would be what the district strategic plan is?
How often does the board meet to discuss the strategic plan? You said that was in 2019. Is it like because I think the district does a revision of its strategic plan every 4 years.
Every 5 years. The board only meets within the 5 years when you're talking about the district strategic plan. The board should be setting its goals every year, or
That's what I'm saying. Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you all have not, and that's what I'm saying. You all have not done that.
No, and that's what I
For a
think
period of time.
with this committee. In fact, that is actually the approved scope of this committee is to set the results goals on it. And to me, that's what we need to do, is basically come up with an evaluation tool, and then we should meet and fill in, make sure that we, you know, put the goals in, put the results that are expected into the tool, right? But it should be an annual thing. I think that was the intention when this was started to a certain extent, but that was certainly the scope of the committee from the get-go, was to work on board goals, right? I don't think we've ever done it since the 3 years I've been on. I was on the results committee the first year when I didn't know what was going on.
No, you all have not.
COVID.
You have not updated or done
Right.
anything with your goals. No.
What is the process in the past for doing that? Because maybe I'm trying to reinvent a wheel and we already have a very serviceable wheel in the back closet.
Chloe.
Good morning. Sorry I was late coming in.
No worries. We're glad you got there safely.
Yeah, and thanks to Molly, I was able to at least hear what was going on. Every 5 years when the district does its strategic plan, it is a comprehensive plan. And it takes a lot of work and tweaking from the members, involved. And I think our strategic plan is coming up. What, this is almost the 5th year, right? Well,
Yeah, they've been talking about it. I've heard.
so it won't be another 5 years until they get together. So Ingrid, when we look at the strategic plan, and if we're planning on presenting the scope from that plan and, ad hoc committee adding on, this is not going to be something that happens overnight.
Right.
It's months of planning, months of writing, months of, research into it, and it will not be ready by December, or the end of this marking period for our superintendent. That's number one. And number two, and I'm sorry again that I was late, but I agree with Mr. Campbell. This evaluation that we're looking at is for the superintendent. Now, the principals evaluate our teachers. Dr. Rodriguez and his team, they evaluate the principals. So they do have an instrument in place. I think that it would be too much to add 3,000 more evaluations to this superintendent when he already has a plan. There already is a plan in place. I'm talking about in terms of evaluating teachers. The state has an instrument. There's a lot of training, but their observations, their write-ups, I mean, it is intensive. So in a way, he is accountable because he holds his principals accountable for those teachers. And I would not support adding that on to him, at this point at all. Because I think we really need to look at the evaluation instrument that is used to evaluate our 3,000 plus teachers, and also the instrument that is used to evaluate the principals. So, and again, that's another, year or so of just trying to look at that and make sure that that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and I agree. I think,
I'm just saying, I don't want to add anything on that we cannot accomplish.
No.
Right.
And
okay, that's fine. And
100%.
I missed the conversation, and if I'm repeating something.
No, this is all good conversation because I don't have a plan. Sometimes I come in hot with a plan, but one of the things is to distinguish. I'm not saying that we need to do some sort of 5-year strategic evaluation overhaul. I think we just stick to the scope of the superintendent evaluation. I think there is a lot of movement at the state level to redo some of the assessments, including among teachers and principals, and that will make more sense than for it to filter up to the superintendent. So the strategic plan that the district does every 5 years should be informed by the strategic goals of the board, which I think, like Robin said, I think we used to, or Mr. Campbell, please feel free to jump in. I think it used to be more practice of the board to review those annually, to say, okay, like, for example.
Well, I just put up the board goals. If you look on the screen,
that was 2019, right?
Those were May of 2017. They had 2017, and they have not been updated since then.
No,
so that is the board's goals. Those were established at a work session. So that's how these came about.
And I think we should do that again. I mean, 27, it's 6 years, right? So, and for example, one of my examples would be, we had the goal of teacher recruitment and retention. And so the superintendent took that and put it into the budget assumptions. And we went from the 37th highest paying district in the country, or in the state, to number 1. Right. So that's how we evaluate the superintendent. Say, okay, here's the goal. What steps have you taken? Does that need to be, then does teacher recruitment intention, is it still a goal for the following year? So it's just basically, I guess what I think I'm hearing is that there's no way to get done what coherence governance prescribes in terms of results policies before December, at which point we'll be halfway through the school year again. So we probably need some sort of an interim, right? Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
Nope,
Okay.
no, I don't.
So I think what I would like to see this committee do, and this is just me sort of throwing stuff out, is I would like to say, okay, we'll take the current evaluation instrument. I think we need to create a tighter crosswalk to the OEs, right?
Yes.
Agreed.
And then we can do that. So that will not be a surprise to him, because right now he's kind of beholden to two systems. He's got this, evaluation tool, which has priorities, and then he's got the OEs. These are already well known to him. I think what we should do is between now and the end of the year, we should meet and get rid of overlap, tighten it up, make sure that things that are in the OE are represented, make sure that, we'll just kind of tighten that all up, and we'll come up with a hybrid instrument. But I think also what I would like to see this committee embark on, and I'm hopefully at the work session, is I really want to push the board to come up with some results policies that we can use when we look at budgeting. So when they present the budget in April, we then go and look at what were our strategic goals and make sure that those strategic goals are reflected in the budget, or, that, and then hopefully the next results committee can take those results policies and create a true coherent governance instrument.
Ingrid, can I suggest that you
Please.
give an example of what a result policy would look like? Because what you're defining and describing as a result policy, some board members don't understand or see it that way. So when you're saying develop a result policy, if you could bring in a example, a sample of what you're looking at to go, so that they can see.
So let me just off the top of my head quickly pull up Myrtle Beach or Horry County, because we actually borrowed a lot of their OEs when we created ours. They were an early adopter of coherent governance. So they actually have, let's see, it looks like 7 results policies. So policy number 1, which is pretty, literacy. So student achievement and literacy will be measured, and they go through the performing indicators. So result number 1 is to improve student literacy. Number 2 is numeracy. Number 3 is science. Number 4 is so they basically want student achievement in those categories.
You want to share your screen? Go ahead and share your screen.
Can I do that? I'm on. Hold on one second. Make sure I don't accidentally share.
I stopped sharing
information, or I've got patient information somewhere.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure I get the right one. Okay. Are we seeing it? Do you see my screen, Robin?
No, there it goes.
Okay, now it says I'm screen sharing. Okay, so here's one: personal success and citizenship. So that's a result policy, and then it says here what each student will do, right? Commitment to community-based problem solving and demonstrate knowledge and skills essential for satisfactory participation in a democracy. I love that result. College career readiness. Let's see, is it 7? Perceptions of stakeholders. And I can tell you they have redone this in 2020, but I know that some of these have been redone more recently. And then here's the strategic plan performance goals. So this is what a results policy could look like. I have seen other districts that will say things like 21st century job skills, they'll say digital literacy, they'll say fine arts. So they're not giant goals. They're a little bit more macro, that at this point in time, these are the areas we want to focus on. I think discipline would be a great strategic goal.
Well, and if I can interject
Please.
really quick, that other slide you showed about citizenship, discipline, I think should be, and this is just me throwing this out there, not putting anything in concrete for today, obviously, but I think discipline should be put on a school level, for teachers and things and administrative staff, however that looks, but then also incorporating that for children, that there's an expectation somehow incorporated into their classroom conduct that is reflective of, how they conduct themselves, how they treat other children and teachers.
From what I've done research on other results, what that could look like is you could put it under a bigger umbrella, right? And that's the other document that you have in board docs was kind of an attempt to, you can have like a big umbrella, right? Like personal success and citizenship, and discipline can be a component of that. Or you could really drill down and say it's going to, we want to focus on discipline. And then one of the monitoring expectations would be that that the superintendent develop classroom level, student centered discipline.
Because we can't call it discipline child facing, but obviously Dr. Rodriguez would understand that. It wouldn't be positioned as discipline toward the child. It would be positioned as, a nicer way of saying classroom conduct or, school ground conduct or something.
Discipline out. We could, but again, you could do
Oh,
discipline.
no, I'm fine for discipline on the larger scale because the adults understand what that means. I'm just saying if it were to be incorporated in how the child is assessed or their grade, let's say, that verbiage would need to be different to resonate with children or make them want to get a good rating there. Does that make sense?
Yep, that totally makes sense. And I think that can be part of the results policy, the do's and the don'ts, within these boundaries. It could be incorporated into an OE because we do have some discipline in the OE I'm having speech difficulties. The superintendent shall not, right? Because there's OEs have the superintendent will achieve this. The superintendent will not, and we could have that as a value under discipline. But I think one of the differences is that the way coherent governance would do discipline would be, what sort of policies, programs, education, tools are you empowering teachers and students and principals with, right? To develop an overall goal of reducing the number of fights. What the matrix methodology does is says, okay, in 2021, we had, X number of fights. We want to reduce that by 50% at the end of the year. Those are very different approaches to evaluation. And I personally fall heavily into the first one, into the coherent governance, and less into, because sometimes these programs take time,
Correct.
But that's the difference. That's what I think the board should be doing. I understand that we probably can't pull that off for the 2023-2024 evaluation. So, but I think that what we can continue to work on.
You can move it toward the 24-25 evaluation.
Right.
But I would love to see this results committee put pressure on the full board to get that, to do that. Because I think it is, as I'm looking at these evaluations, I think it is quite a whole. It's a tool we're not using to inform budget, to inform policy, to inform ARs, to inform, leadership. So I'd like to continue to have that come out of this committee. And in the past, I feel like the committee's really limited itself to a year by year development or tweaking of evaluation tool. And I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I apologize.
No, you're doing great.
So that would be, the two things is, I think if you guys don't object, I think the next thing we need to do is start looking at how to sort of tighten up the current instrument that we have and match it better into our OEs and create sort of a hybrid evaluation tool, and go through and figure out what we think is still really important out of the Michigan tool, and then make sure that everything that's in the OEs are tied in as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that'll be what we'll leave at the end of this year for the next results committee will be a hybrid evaluation tool, and then continue to develop a path forward for this committee to annually develop, revise, and tweak the results policies from coherent governance, which will be used to inform future evaluations. That's kind of where I'm landing.
What documents do you need? What information do you need to do the tweak? Would you need the strategic plan? Do you need to look at all the OEs? What do you need to look at to bring it all together?
Yeah, I think the OEs and the current plan, and then we just need to get in a room and sit down and crosswalk the two.
Yes, and Robin, that's what I was asking for, was the strategic plan that you had on your screen for a moment that I believe was from 2019. If you could email that to me.
That wasn't the strategic plan. That was the board's goals.
Oh, that's what I meant, the board goals. Yes.
Those were the board's goals for 2017. That wasn't the strategic plan.
Do you mind sending them to me just so I can look?
The goals?
Correct.
Yes, I'll send you the goals.
Thank you.
Ms. Gordon, how do you feel about all that?
Information, Ingrid. Madam Chair, sorry.
Call me
Um,
Ingrid.
I do agree that we need to look at this for the 24-25 school year. I think that's an excellent suggestion. And I like being able to push out information about where we're going with this plan and looking at the strategic goals of the board, and in keeping with that, it sounds to me like we are trying to move forward with progress with actions that were not taken previously. And I just like to make that extremely clear. And also that when we look at these goals and what we want to do, I do think Ms. Cushenberry made a good suggestion about how we present it to the members of the board so that they understand what we're doing. And I think we'll get better traction from them. But I do think this is something that we need to do and go forward with it with full speed ahead, because it's been a long time coming from what I'm hearing. And when things don't get done immediately or when they should, it does add stress to what we need to do. So yes, I hear what you're saying. I do want to do this, but I just want to make sure that when we're doing these things that we're not impacting. And I think you already said that the evaluation for this school year for Dr. Rodriguez. So I'm good with that, and I'll need a copy of the district's. The board's goals as well.
I'll send that out to everyone.
And I thank Robin because she has a great memory, guys. She remembers.
No kidding.
Oh my goodness, and I'm so grateful for that because I have no clue. So thank you, and I'll read that and get back with you.
Yeah, she has irreplaceable institutional knowledge.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a nice way of saying them all.
So then basically, I don't think we need a motion coming out of this. What I'm going to take to the work session, and Robin, you and I can just touch base about documents, but hopefully we will have a conversation that I would think would be, a significant conversation about that will, initiate out of this committee, essentially, that the results committee needs to be developing results and strategic goals, and we'll take it to the full board and say, like, how do we want to do this? I think that'll be, I think, in other words, I think it'll be a kickoff conversation, not a get it done conversation. But in the interim period, so that Dr. Rodriguez understands the expectations of the current school year he's in, we will just commit to, between now and the end of December, developing a hybrid document that really starts to move us into making sure that all the OEs are part of the evaluation. And none of that between the OE and the Michigan evaluation tool, he's aware of both those expectations. He's already, complying with both of those sets of expectations. So this will just be kind of merging it into one document.
So for the work session, as far as documentation, are we going to show?
What I want to do, and you guys pipe in here and tell me if you think, but this is what I would suggest. I want to put in the committee scope. I want to put in the goals that you just showed that were done in 2017. I want to put in, just as a conversational point, the list of potential results that I had gathered from other school boards as avoiding the tyranny of the blank page. And just label that agenda item as initial discussion about school board results policies.
Are you going to put the sample of, so that they can see the sample of what you just showed? I'll
send you 3 to 5. I have them saved. I'll send you 3 to 5 examples.
So that way they can see, because that one already looks like what we're doing. And to me, that would be easier for the acceptance of the rest of the board. It's like, it's the next step that has not been completed yet.
It's good to give people examples, because then they can see the direction we're driving this particular bus.
Yeah.
And if ultimately the full board decides this is not the way they want to proceed, that's fine. But
Yeah.
to me, I think that this will be a reasonable thing because this is well within the scope of the committee.
So I have committee scope, board goals. You'll provide the examples. Do we need the strategic plan, or is that for your work as aligning for December?
Let me reach out to district leadership and see where they're at, because I hate to present something that they're in the middle of changing and cause confusion. But yeah, we can definitely provide the 2019 strategic result, but I think they are currently initiating the process of reviewing this year anyways. So, but yeah, I think that would be fine. Let me just check with them and make sure we have the most up-to-date
That
stats.
would be Dr. Stratus,
Okay.
who has the strategic plan
Right.
we are currently working under.
Yeah. So I'll talk to her real quick and see what she recommends that we present to the full board. I mean, we all have access to the strategic goals, obviously,
Right.
or the strategic plan, but see what if she wants us to present that with all this. So that'll give me a little to-do list. We'll get that together.
You all want to schedule your next meeting?
Sure. What sounds good to everybody? Do we want to wait till after the work session?
Yeah, I'd rather wait till after the work session and the meeting on the 30th.
Right.
We
Okay.
haven't.
Yeah, that
we'll
sounds
be
good. So we'll
meeting-
schedule our next one.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you guys will homework, look at the OEs and the valuation tools and start thinking about making sure that we've just got those all integrated. I think we can
Yes.
change the formatting a little bit too.
The OEs are
And,
in your manual
yeah.
for Chloe and Elizabeth, and then I will email you to the committee, the board goals from 2017.
Thank
And,
you.
I
Okay.
get I check the coherent governance policy off our website. So if you go to the About Us school board, and it says board policies, the manual's there and it's pretty searchable.
Yes.
Although, Robin, we need to update the
It will
administrative
be
technology.
updated, it won't be updated until after we finish updating the policies.
Okay. All right, so yeah, so let's look at that. And but will you put because the OE, the technology OE is vastly different. So, and we don't really capture technology in this current evaluation tool or use of technology. So maybe can we get a copy of that sent to us as well?
Yes, I'll send the technology OE.
The revised one. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So and so between now, it's the 6th, then let's look at the first week in November, then potentially to have another meeting, and we can just email about dates. What do we have on there already, Robin? Anything?
So if you're actually looking at the first week of November, which would be, November starts on a Wednesday. So that would be the first, the second is on the Tuesday. Then you have the following week of Monday, the 6th, Tuesday is a board meeting on the 7th, and then you have the 8th, 9th, and 10th.
What's y'all's schedules like?
Hold on one second.
Yeah, I would like to kind of knock out the putting together, at least getting it mostly done, the hybrid evaluation, because once the holidays hit, it's going to be tough.
Well, you know, the election is on the 7th.
And that's a board meeting
And
night.
that's the board meeting night.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm good 8, 9, and 10. I don't want to do anything that Monday. Because
Yeah, I've got availability.
Right?
And look, if this time on Friday works for you guys, Friday afternoons.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest, actually, I have a standing meeting that I accidentally scheduled. This, said that I could do this time. I have a standing meeting every Friday at 11:15 that I then didn't make it to today. But if we could do this time on Wednesday, the 8th or Thursday, the 9th.
Yeah, I can do Wednesday. I can't do Thursdays because I'm in clinic. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday afternoons are fine with me. Chloe, what works for you?
Chloe said, how about the 8th? Right now,
Yeah.
8th has been the mutual date that all three of you landed on. What
Perfect.
time on the 8th?
I can do any time after 11.
Can we do 11?
Anytime after 11.
Yeah, we can do 11. It's fine with me.
So the 8th, so November 8th at 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So I'm quite
And
sure we'll
then-
have a lot of discussion after the election on the 8th. It's gonna be also a busy day, but 11
Okay.
o'clock,
Yeah,
On the
11 o'clock on Wednesday, the 8th.
Okay.
And then, but in the between now and then, if y'all just take a look at that and have some ideas on how we can do this. You know, to sort of, it's basically taking, here's the Michigan evaluation, and we want to get to the results, you know, OE coherent governance. So this is going to be kind of a in between. So have some thoughts, because I don't have a good plan yet. So,
I will
No,
send
I
you
will.
all
I'm
the
gonna dig
committee
in.
scope, the board goals, and technology OE.
yes, please.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have any, Mr. Campbell, did you have something?
I know you were talking about discipline, and I would suggest maybe you should get somebody from student services included in that next meeting.
Yeah, I think I was actually going to email and recommend that we have an executive committee meeting to work. We'll see. We need to have an update on some of that for sure.
Those
Okay.
will come in, just as a FYI, like student discipline is an OE that will be presented in academics in October and November.
Okay.
Actually, it's on schedule for academics for this month. So
Perfect.
that OE will be presented then, and you'll get information.
Good.
thanks, Robin. I forgot.
That'll be a good meeting.
Yes, it will.
Okay. So that will, but we don't have a second business session in October.
No, that discipline, the OEs come to committee. So she would be bringing that to the academic committee meeting
Gotcha.
in October, and then it will be presented to the full board at the meeting in November.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
So-
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, would you guys like to adjourn by unanimous consent?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thanks for all your help, Robin. Appreciate it. Mr. Campbell, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.